Today we will be telling you about the culture shock international students may experience and how this goes along with the lines of fitting in and adjusting to the new culture.
For instance, my first culture shock was actually college itself, because I was used to back home of having school, but school was apart from everything else. While college here is basically, you have your gym here, you have your school sports here, you have your academics, everything is around school. Back home you had your own sports club for soccer, and you didn't have a school team. So that was, in a way, it was really good, because I never had school spirit, and I think that's pretty cool here. And in a way it's bad, because I feel kind of claustrophobic, because I feel like Westminster is like a bubble, and I'm like, whoa, what about the outside world? What about the rest of Utah? And then sports obviously is a big one. I turn on the TV and it's American football or baseball, which I like, but I have to adapt to it, because I used to live in an environment where it was soccer 24/7, and now, with the whole Brett Favre thing, and I'm like, what's going on? And also, well, the media, this also relates to the media. I mean, I'm used to having two ESPNs, ESPN1 and ESPN2. Here I turn on the TV, and my roommates in a dorm room, and it's like ESPN 12. It's like 12 ESPNs, and I'm like, it's a little overwhelming. And this is, again, good and bad, because you have like 500 MTVs, and either you want to watch the city, the hills at the same time, or but it's also a little overwhelming, because when I turn on the TV, I'm completely lost. I always have to ask, hey dude, what channel is on this? Oh, it's 275. Oh, okay. So mine didn't go up. Mine back home just went up to 99. A positive culture shock I want to share, because this is what Marvin and I discussed. Like, culture shock, even though it has a negative connotation, I think culture shock can also be positive in many ways. For instance, and this only applies to me, like here, I can walk on the street at 11 o'clock and it's still safe at night. While back home, if you're not walking in a group of 5 people, you're pretty much going to get mugged in the street. And like, when I lived back home, I was already saddened by the situation, but I'm even more saddened, like, to walk to the movie theaters or walk to a party at 12 o'clock on the street by myself, and it's okay, because no one's going to do anything, and I love the fact of just being safe anywhere I am, and that's a really, I've actually enjoyed being here a lot because of that. And, well, music is very different, especially when I go to social events. Like, for instance, I used to listen to techno and reggaeton back home, and now I listen to hip-hop and everything. Oh, dude, I love this song. I'm like, yeah, I guess. It has a good beat to it. And, well, the social events, to me, is the biggest, not the biggest, but at least it's the most common culture shock of at least everyday weekends. Obviously, I mean, for instance, how the social events are, how they're conformed. Because I'm 19, and, well, obviously the drinking age is 21 here, so the whole social events change from back home. Like, for instance, in Costa Rica, what I do with my friends is we went to a club to dance and maybe have a few drinks, or go to a restaurant and have a few glasses of wine. Here you have binge drinking, secretive drinking, avoiding the cops when they come to a house, and drinking as fast as you can, because you have to avoid the RA or someone that's seeing you. I don't know. It's stressful, and it loses like some of the purposes of why you drink. Like, here, like back home, you say, oh, you drink because it does relax you. It makes you whatever socialize better, or it's just, or you enjoy it. Here, it's just, oh, dude, I just want to be up. I'm like, what? No, that's completely different. So that's been big culture shocks to me. And I'll pass the presentation.
It is important to mention that the culture shock is experienced very differently by each individual. because it's a very personal experience. And just like Nick did, I want to share a few culture shocks with you that I had, but I don't want to go into depth too much. So, food. Food is a good point to start off with. There's a lot of fast food out here, obviously. And it's pretty convenient sometimes, and sometimes you just wish you had your mom's food, but that's okay. And then there's spray cheese. Who came up with spray cheese? That's very American. Only Americans could be too lazy to get cheese out of the fridge and put it in a sandwich and just spray it. They want to have cheese like that. So that was a culture shock to me, but I adjusted well. I spray cheese with crackers all the time. Then the size of everything is very different. Cars, stores, roads, everything is big, very big. And when I first got it, it was like, whoa, everything is big, but you get used to it very quick, and having a wide road is actually pretty convenient at sometimes. And then something that took me a while to get used to is the way communication works in America. And on one hand, it's very friendly and very inviting, and you feel like everyone is like really nice to you. But on the other hand, it's really plastic at some point when you walk by somebody and the typical, hey, how are you? And no one even stops to like listen to your answer, just keep walking. So I figure it's a way of saying hi. They don't care how I am. And, the same accounts for like a waitress at a restaurant that typically like, what can I get for you, honey? I'm like, honey, I don't even know you. So those are things but you get used to it. And there's other very unique things in American culture, such as drive-through ATMs. Can you not get out of the car? And then there's pills for everything. If you go to a grocery store, you can pretty much get medication for everything. And if one pill is supposed to have a side effect of nausea, you just take 2 pills for both of it. So don't worry about it. But I'm not saying this is bad or anything, it's just something that you need to adjust to. However, the intensity in which a culture shock affects an individual depends primarily on 2 different aspects. It depends on the contrast to the culture you come from. Say somebody from Europe, well, European culture is maybe a little bit closer to American culture than Asian culture. Yeah, I heard you guys had a struggle with food and stuff like that. So on one hand, it's like the culture you come from. On the other hand, it's your very individual character. If you're outgoing, if you're very open-minded, it's obviously easier for you to adapt or to adjust to new culture than it is for somebody who is like very shy. And so that's like the main 2 factors that culture shock depends on. And we also prepared a little animation to maybe visualize how a lot of individually small aspects that are maybe a lot don't make sense can add up to a big pile of things that at some point can get very overwhelming. You know, it is important to mention that, like, if you experience one of those things individually, they're not going to affect you. You might be like surprised, but they're not a big deal. But if they all come together, it can just get one big mess.
It just becomes like a huge wall. Like when you first come to a foreign country, you don't feel it. You feel your own vacations. But once, like after 2 months, like all these things, you just question yourself, like, my life has suddenly become completely different. And now it's also an image of identity, like not forgetting who you are, but also trying to adapt to that culture, not changing completely. So this is our very simple yet effective way.
So this was our little animation. And this brings us to the struggle people can experience when adjusting to a new culture. And it's pretty much a balancing act between assimilating completely to a new culture and their way of life, while at the same time remaining individual, because nobody wants to give up their full identity to just to live in a new country. So that's pretty much the balancing act that international students go through. And this process can take its time and can put us into strange situations sometimes, where we need to decide if we want to assimilate a certain idea or if we want to keep our behavior especially like this is like crucial when it like maybe the new behavior or something conflicts with your old like ideas and behaviors. So this is kind of where you need to make the call, like if you feel like ready for that, or if you want to like rather stay in your, keep your own beliefs and behaviors. This is kind of like the point that takes a while when you really need to figure out what you want and what you don't want. And Nick actually wrote a poem about that a while ago when you first got here, and just to express his feelings. And I think many people leave feelings behind, and that's why maybe it's a good idea to just listen to his poem, because pretty much it's very like, yeah, it does present the feelings, and this is where most of all that happens, like inside you. So maybe we should just listen to it.
Yeah, okay. The poem is also another creative part of the whole project, and on top of that, just background information, I wrote it like maybe 2 months ago. It's mostly about homesickness. I mean, just showing you how, you know, after like the accumulation of culture shock, like of small things, how you just start like maybe appreciating your home more, or missing it, or missing the people in it. So here's the poem, and I'll read it aloud. Closest feeling to homesickness. The unfamiliar touch of the grass, my insides spin. The ocean taste struggles to leave my eyes. But after a while, it residually slips down my cheeks and into other oceans I know not. The absence of a few makes the presence of many equal nothing. My insides still spin and spin. Without others recognizing me, I censor shadows, reflections, and my hands fail to safeguard the moments which my footsteps erase. The unfamiliar touch of the grass, the absence of a few makes the presence of many equal nothing. My insides keep spinning and spinning, and they won't stop until the ocean stops singing and my hands start catching moments while I walk forward. Thank you.